Have you ever just stopped and wondered, why do people do the things they do? Well, in the next few minutes, we are cracking open Robert Greene's incredible book, The Laws of Human Nature, to uncover the hidden forces that are basically pulling all our strings. Let's get right into it. I mean, we've all been there, right? Falling for the exact same type of person, repeating the same pointless arguments, or just getting in our own way. It's so frustrating. Robert Greene argues that the answer to this maddening pattern isn't out there somewhere. Nope, it's deep within our shared human nature. So here's our game plan. First, we'll unmask our own nature. Then, we'll learn to confront our emotional selves. After that, we'll get into how to read people like a book, navigate tricky social situations, and finally unlock what is basically a superpower that this knowledge gives us. All right, first up, unmasking human nature. Now, Greene's core idea here is a little humbling. It's that we're often just puppets, being controlled by forces we don't even realize are there. You know, we all like to believe we're in the driver's seat. But the truth is, so much of what we do is actually driven by powerful, unconscious emotions and patterns we've built up over a lifetime. The first real step to freedom is just admitting you're not as in control as you think. And look, this isn't a weakness. It's the absolute starting line for true self-awareness. So, if we're all being driven by these unconscious emotions, the first battlefield has to be within ourselves. And that brings us right to our second point, confronting your emotional self. If you want to gain any real control, you first have to understand your own internal wiring. And Greene's definition of rationality is it's fantastic. It's not about being some kind of emotionless robot, not at all. It's about having the ability to hit a pause button between a feeling and a reaction. It's about seeing the gap between what I feel is happening and what is actually happening. And this just perfectly illustrates that internal battle, doesn't it? On one side, you've got your rational mind. That's your inner strategist, the one playing the long game. And on the other, you've got the emotional reaction, which is all about impulse, the here and now. Just being able to recognize which one is talking at any given moment is a fundamental, game-changing skill. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. Once you start to see that emotional pull in yourself, you start to develop a kind of radar for it in other people. And that's our gateway into Section 3, learning to read people like a book by seeing past the social mask everyone wears. This quote right here is such a game changer. People are constantly, and I mean constantly, leaking their true feelings and intentions. Their words might be saying one thing, but their body language, their tone of voice, their tiny micro-expressions, that's where the real story is. The information is always there. We just have to learn how to actually pay attention. So what are these giveaways? Well, look for mismatches. You know, when someone tells you they're totally fine with a decision, but their jaw is clenched and they can't quite look you in the eye. Their body is telling a completely different story. Or look for those sudden changes in tone or emotional displays that seem a little over the top. This isn't about being judgmental, it's about collecting data to see the whole picture. Okay, let's zoom out a bit. These laws don't just apply to one-on-one interactions. Oh no, they get magnified like crazy inside of groups. So welcome to the social jungle, a place where emotions are contagious and rational thought can be the very first casualty. So how in the world do you navigate this? Well, Greene's strategy is actually pretty straightforward, but it's powerful. First, just take the emotional temperature of the room. Second, observe the hidden power dynamics. Who really holds influence? The absolute key, though, is to detach from any group hysteria. You might need to conform on the outside to get by, but you must always, always maintain your inner independence and think for yourself. Okay, so mastering yourself, understanding others, navigating groups, all of this builds up to our final and most important point, the ultimate superpower. And this is not about manipulation. It's about turning all this knowledge into real wisdom, a clear way to move through the world. You know, the goal of understanding human nature isn't to become better or cynical. It's actually to become a realist. It's about dropping the fantasies we have about how people should be and instead seeing them as they are, complex, flawed, and often brilliant. There is so much power and freedom in that clarity. And believe me, we've barely scratched the surface here. Greene lays out 18 distinct laws in his book. Think of each one as a new tool, a new lens for perception. They help you see all the invisible patterns that are constantly at play around us, from the law of envy to the law of short-sightedness. Suddenly, the world starts to make a lot more sense. What connects all of these laws together is probably the most powerful tool we have: empathy. But Greene reframes it. It's not just a passive feeling of sympathy. It's an active, strategic skill. It's the ability to genuinely put yourself in someone else's shoes, to understand their world from the inside out. That is the ultimate key to perception.
So remember, the laws of human nature aren't just ideas in a book. They are forces at play in your life every single day. The goal here isn't just to know this stuff, it's to act on it. So I'll leave you with this question. Now that you can see the patterns, what are you going to do differently?